All right, everybody, thank you, and welcome to the first live stream in what feels like an entire lifetime. I'm Chuck Cassidy. Welcome to my new shop. We'll get into that in just a moment. I just want to take a minute and thank you all for joining me and putting up with my recent hiatus. I had life happen to me, and a lot of good things have happened to me since then, so don't worry about me. But yeah, we're getting back on the horse tonight, so thank you so much for joining me. Let's just, give it up for all of you people coming in today. I got my iPad here, because that's the way we do things these days. And I'm going to be using that to kind of keep tabs on the comments coming in as we go through everything today. And we've got a pretty awesome lineup. A lot of familiar faces joining us today, which is great. Good to see you, Tim, Imperial Beach Dad. Good to see you, buddy. We got Brad in here with Crowning Around. Long time no see, buddy. Brad was just hanging out with me here in my house. We spent some quality time right here in this shop together. Good to see you guys. Trucker Bear, oh man, already with the super chats. Thank you so much. That is definitely going to buy me dinner tonight after this is all over. Great to see everybody. Looks like, do we have any international? Oh, mic is too hot, huh? Let me see if I can turn that down a little bit. Or I'll just talk a little quieter. Is that a little better? Tell me if that's better. I'll just talk a little quieter. Give me any feedback too on this. It's been a while. I had to kind of get back up on the horse and figure out how to do this. It's been so long. It was kind of like learning from scratch again. Anyways, I'm gonna see if I can trim that volume down a touch here while we're doing this. Thank you for being my quality assurance team. It's not easy to do this all on my own, as it were. Let me see if I can turn that down. Bear with me for un momento. Let's see here. Second, but don't worry about me. Everything is groovy. We're gonna get there right there. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're going to bump that down a few notches. How is that? I think that should be a little bit better on that. And we're going to be back up to this rocking and rolling in no time here. Okay, everyone. Hopefully that's a little better. It should be. Tell me it is. And that's all we have to go by. All right. Yes, mic is very silent now, but now it should be good. Should be a lot better. Tell me if that's too low, but I think we're in the zone. Anyway, we're back in it, and yeah, someone was commenting on the Black Angels. They're one of my favorite psychedelic rock bands. There was a time where I was a guitarist in a band, and I had totally that phase of lots of reverb through a nice Fender Deluxe reverb on my Jazzmaster. We were just rocking. Okay, so before we get into the Q&A, because I know that's what everyone's here, you've been saving your questions for like the last 4 months or however long it's been. I'm going to tell you guys what I've been up to, what's going on, and a cautionary tale, if you will, that I've reacquainted myself with over the last few months. So I can't even remember the last time we did this. It was probably back in June, for crying out loud. I'm not sure. I was up in Washington at the time, and I had a lot going on. Frankly, too much on my plate. I don't know if it's possible to do this, but I think it is because it happened to me. But frankly, I just kind of burned out on my own existence. I was like, who am I anymore, And when I got into that headspace, I just didn't feel compelled to make videos. It's not that I didn't have stuff to share, but I needed some time for my own personal life to kind of reacquaint myself with who I actually am. Before all of this bus nonsense started, before YouTube, before I had a bus company, I was a very different person from, I think, how a lot of you perceive me. I was much more creative. I was an active musician, and building for me is something that I've always kind of done out of necessity. I'm very lucky that I didn't have any formal training other than what I learned by solving the problems and challenges that I faced growing up, I guess, on my own. The first bus I lived in was out of a necessity. I couldn't afford anywhere to live, and it was back in 2008, and it was an old MCI coach bus. It was an old Greyhound. And boy, if you could see that conversion compared to the things I do now, boy, everything was 2x4s and Home Depot L brackets and the electrical. I don't even want to get started. I had a generator under the bus that I ducted with dryer vents. Incredibly dangerous. No carbon monoxide detectors. What was I thinking? But that came from a place of like genuine excitement and creativity, and it was to afford me the lifestyle that I wanted. The interesting thing here is, a bus is a vehicle literally, but it was also a vehicle metaphorically for me to get the lifestyle that I wanted. But as is often the case, this sort of hobby / interest of mine quickly went from being the vehicle to get me the lifestyle I wanted to being the lifestyle that I had kind of by default. And I think that is maybe one thing that differentiates me from other people out there who embark on bus life. And this is not a knock on them at all, but it was a long time before I accepted my identity, I guess, as like a bus lifer. And once I did, it slowly started to erode on the space that I am, and I let go of these things that were important to me. My band, we split up, we didn't have time for it anymore. And things just kind of progressed until all I was doing was bus stuff. I was running a party bus company, and then I started this bus conversion company 10 years ago. And it consumed me. We had employees and shop rent and stuff. And that was kind of the beginning of the end, And it kind of all came to a head this last summer. I had things happening in my personal life that proved to me that I was out of touch with myself. And when I feel that way, it's hard for me to get in front of a camera and present myself, as I don't know who I am. I don't know who you're getting. And Chuck Cassidy is most certainly a character, but he's a character that inhabits my real, actual body, and I have to live with him every day. He's a pretty good guy, but he can be kind of not who I am if I don't know who I really am deep down. So I took some time off, and it was really, really good. I came back home. I've been spending a lot of time finishing this renovation on this 1908 house that I have, and we are so close to being done with that. And I've been just reconnecting with a lot of people and relationships that I had in the past that I've been neglecting. And I've also been spending more time getting back in touch with the things that are most important to me. I've been playing a lot more music. I've been taking better care of myself. I'm writing a lot more. I love writing. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I've been reading more. I've been getting back in touch with philosophy, and philosophy is a big part of my life. And so here I am. You're getting like a sort of Chuck Cassidy 2.0 or something. I don't know. My focus and priorities have realigned. And that's going to segue into the next thing I'm going to talk about. But we're not quite there yet, because there's a few other things that happened that were really great. In September, I took a trip to Greece. I lived on a sailboat with some friends of mine for a little over a week, and then traveled around Greece for a while, and that was super eye-opening and really great to be around people who had nothing to do with the bus world. And not that there's anything wrong with the bus world, but man, I'd been just so deep in it that it was really refreshing to spend time with people who knew me in a different context, because I am more than a bus guy, if you can believe that. And then I followed that up almost immediately with a like 5-week-long road trip. I went down to the moon landing event, which was awesome. I taught some workshops for Anchor, who I'm a brand ambassador for, who I really like working with. And then I went immediately from there to Wichita, hanging out with my friend Alex. We caravaned to Wichita, where I did a few solar installs there. Helped my friend Wes at his shop. That's where we were hanging out. And then came back home. I was home for like 2 or 3 days, did a solar install here, and then bought a slide-in truck camper, put it in the back of my Tundra, which I did before the moon landing, actually. I was living out of a truck camper. Can you believe it? Because my bus isn't finished. But I'd never lived in one, and I was curious what that would all be like. And honestly, it was pretty good. Pretty good. I've already sold it, moved on, but I can, notch that on my belt, right? And went out to California, where I spent some more time with other important friends of mine, reconnecting with some old friends, making plans for the future, and spending time with some people who are really important to me. And that's all felt really good. And I came back home. Immediately after that, Brad and Donna, crowning around, came over, and we knocked out some projects on my bus, which is parked in my driveway. And I've just been working on my house. Believe it or not, when I bought this house, this shop, this whole wall was missing, okay? There was no window, didn't have power. A tree had fallen on the garage. The door was boarded up. And so I spent a lot of time getting this back into shape because since I no longer have a shop, I'm not in Washington anymore, and my bus still isn't finished, I need a place to finish that. So I'm getting back to my roots. I'm working right now out of this tiny shop. It's about 18 by 9, and my bus fits in the driveway, which is a freaking miracle. And I've got everything set up here. Of course, I miss all my big tools, but they're long gone at this point. But I've got a space here, I've got electricity, and I've got a working garage door and a nice brick wall, so no complaints. Something to hang my poster on. So what is this cautionary tale that I have for you? Well, I kind of was alluding to it. The cautionary tale is really, it's so easy to lose ourselves in the things that we do. And don't get me wrong, it's important, I think, to, if we care about things, to fold ourselves into the work that we do. I, for one, have never been able to handle that boundary between my work life and my personal life and who I am. It's just, I got lucky or unlucky enough to, at the age of 19, start my own business. And I've been in that mode, well, I still am. And I guess I never left that mode. But the thing that happens is when we get wrapped up in these, when our identity is fixed to the work that we do and how that work is perceived and how we share that work, I think it's easy to lose sight of who we really are deep down in our core. And wrapped up in that was this notion of this bus that I'm building, this bus for myself, which, you know, it's been 10 years since I finished the last bus for myself. And so I learned a lot of things. There was a lot of new things I wanted to try in this bus. And then there was the pressure of, you know, being the guy on the internet who, for better or worse, people come to for advice on how to build a bus. And I want this bus to be so good so that when people see it, they see examples of the best way to do things. Well, perfection is the enemy of progress. That is something that I think we've probably all heard. And I got so hung up on perfection, my progress slowed to a crawl. I mean, we're talking about like a 40-footer with a 545 and a 5.9 Cummins going up I-70 westbound. You know what I'm saying? I had the flashers on, I was in the slow lane, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And it's taken me taking the time to step back and sort of disconnect myself from this work and reestablish a healthy relationship to get back in this bus and make progress even though things aren't perfect. Now, people will look at my bus and think, oh, it's beautiful. And I agree, it is a beautiful bus and I love everything about it, the way it's turning out. But I had to relax my grip on things and I had to be more flexible and yielding to what wanted to happen, because it seems like the universe does have a flow that it wants to have happen. And let that take precedence over what I was trying to like force and pound into existence like a blacksmith. Something like that. The analogies, you know, they flow from me. So my cautionary tale is this: if you are working on your project, or maybe you've got a job or whatever and it's consuming you, that's not always bad, but is it representative of who you really are as a person? And are you able to hold on to that sense of identity across all of these different characters that you have to play in your life? Because I'm the kind of guy, like, perfection is not really my thing. Like, for other people, when they're hiring me to build stuff, boy, I'm gonna do my freaking best, you know? But in my own life, I kind of had this wabi-sabi attitude, and it's much more liberating and it's much more in alignment with the creative bones in my body. And I'm really glad I've had this time off, because now I've been hitting my bus and I've been getting so much done just letting it flow and letting the bus make the decisions for me and relaxing my grip on this like perfect vision and this perfect outcome that I've had. And a big part of that too is working with other people and getting their input to kind of get you out of your ruts. So if you're working on a project and you're held up, you're frozen because you want things to be perfect, well, that's a good impulse. I'm not going to fault you for that. But remember, the bus is a vehicle. It's a vehicle to get us to the life that we want. It's not the end in itself. And so my advice to you is get that frickin' bus done. You don't have to do everything perfectly, okay? I know a lot of people think that the way I do things is the only way that I'm okay with them being done. And if I see someone else do something differently, I'm going to call you an idiot or something. And that just isn't true. What I want to see people do is finish their damn projects and get in that bus and live the life that they imagine. That's why we're all doing this, and that's why we're here. So don't lose sight. Don't lose sight of the forest for the trees. Don't let perfection be the enemy of progress, and get your projects finished. Take a page out of my book that I've just recently reread, and let your projects be a representation of you instead of you becoming a representation of your projects. Does that make sense? Thank you for letting me just, verbally dump everything on you that I've been processing. But hey, this isn't often a personal channel, and I feel like I kind of owed you something since it's been so long. So without further ado, I think what we're going to go ahead and I would be remiss if I didn't say that when Brad and Donna were in town, we had a ball. We went to some shows, we partied, we hung out, and we got a lot of stuff done on the bus. I can't wait to show you. Maybe one day when the weather's warmer, I'll make a video and show you what we did. But Brad was one of those people that helped me get out of my head about solving some tricky problems where I kind of built myself into a corner and I was just frozen as far as what to do. And sometimes you just need a buddy to come in and be like, nah, man, do it like this. Come on, let's just do it, And Brad, thank you for that. You and Donna too. You are the type of people that really helped me kind of get out of my rut and get back in the swing of things. And it feels really good. So thanks for that. We're going to go ahead and get into the next segment because if I'm looking at my itinerary here, that is the tool du jour. This is relevant because I'm currently at the phase of wrapping up the plumbing in my bus. And don't worry, there will be a video about that. I've got some cool tricks, some cool tips, and a couple of systems ideas that I think you're going to like. They're all designed around a few things. One of them is not wasting water. Okay, that's a good one. Some tips around there. How to heat water with electricity in a very efficient manner, using a DC heating element, and how to control that so that, when you have an electric water heater, normally they're AC powered, which means when you're making hot water, it's coming off of your inverter. And inverters, as we know, only have so much headroom. They can only put as many watts as they're rated to. So if you got a 3,000 watt inverter and you got a 1,500 watt water heater and you turn that thing on, all of a sudden you only have half of your inverter left to run your mini split, or if you want to use, say, an induction cooktop, use the induction cooktop and you're going to run out of power. If you make your water heater DC, it doesn't use the inverter, it bypasses that and saves all of the headroom in your inverter for all of the appliances that actually have to be AC. So we're going to cover that and a couple of other things I'm doing that I think you'll think are cool. They're easy to do. I'm also installing a reverse osmosis water filtration system. Again, thank you to Brad for turning me onto that and how to handle the wastewater from that setup. Pretty cool stuff there. And throwing a bidet in the bus. I mean, why not? Don't worry, it's simple. And it has a double feature of being able to rinse out the bowl of your composting toilet so you don't have to carry a spray bottle around. How cool is that? Needless to say, I am in plumbing zone. I got my plumbing mind on, which makes me think of Mario Brothers, which makes me think of Luigi. There's a famous Luigi in the news today. Bit of a folk hero, if you ask me. But we're not going to get too political, although is healthcare political? Shouldn't be. We're going to talk about some plumbing connection methods, and my preferred plumbing connection method utilizes a product called PEX-A. There are two types of PEX pipe out there. I know, go figure, right? You got A and your B. PEX-A uses a cross-linked, this is at the molecular level, a cross-linked polyethylene material to make the pipe out of, okay? And so this is a piece of PEX-A. What's special about PEX-A is because it's cross-linked in that way, it has a sort of memory. So you can stretch this pipe out, and when you stop stretching it out, it will come back to where it remembers it likes to be. What's cool about that is if you ever kink it, which is a major bummer in normal PEX piping, PEX-B, which if you kink, the kink is stuck. If you kink PEX-A, you can hit it with some heat and it will actually unkink and go back to its original shape. How cool is that? They also, it's claimed, I don't know if this is true, that it's more tolerant of freezing and thawing cycles, which hopefully your bus never freezes, but if it does freeze with water in the lines, the PEX-A can handle that expansion and it will contract on its own and hopefully mitigate bursts. But if you watch PEX testing videos on YouTube, and I'm the kind of guy that does, you will learn that it's very hard to rupture PEX simply by freezing. Usually it's the things that are connected to it that break first. But the real thing that I love about this is the way that you make connections with PEX-A. It's a little different from normal PEX, like shark bite fittings. Yeah, you just stick it in there and you're done. Other PEX-B fittings, you know, you would put it in the pipe and you would put a clamp around it and you would tighten that clamp. And there's a bunch of different styles of clamps. But again, since that pipe has no memory, you have to, you know, mechanically clamp it down. What's cool about PEX-A is that we can stretch the pipe out, slip it around an oversized fitting, and then as soon as we remove the tool, that pipe will spend the rest of its life, all of eternity, because we know plastic is forever, shrinking down, trying to make that connection tighter. That's really cool. The other neat benefit is that because the fittings are oversized, typically when you put a fitting into normal PEX, you get a small, slight reduction in the diameter of the pipe. That's not such an issue in buses because we're not using high flow appliances generally. However, you know, for your main feed lines coming off your water pump, your water heater, and things like that, if you got the shower and the kitchen sink happening at the same time, you might experience pressure drop. That might also be your pump. But in a house or in other settings, it's nice because you're getting full flow through all of your fittings, and pressure drop can really be a problem. Unlike the Toots and Maytals song, you know what I'm talking about, pressure drop. So what's the tool involved here? Well, there are manual ways for spreading the pipe out. They all work essentially on the same principle. We stick something in the pipe that expands and stretches that pipe out. Well, you can do it by hand. It'll make you strong for sure. Or you can head up on the Facebook Marketplace, because I really like buying tools used if you can, and get this device. This is a device made by Milwaukee, big shock. And what it does, you can see that there, it actually expands the tip. So we're gonna stick that in the end of the pipe. All we do is squeeze the trigger and it stretches it out for us. Once it's stretched out, we can pop the fitting in, we release it, and it will seal down within a couple of seconds, and you've got a nice, solid, permanent connection that's not going anywhere. I'm gonna show you how I do that, or how we do that. What you're gonna need, of course, is your pipe. This is a piece of 3/4 inch pipe, and the tool that you buy, it will have different adapters for 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, whatever size PEX you wanna work with. Make sure you're getting that one. Most of the things that we do in a bus are gonna be 1/2 inch. I would love to do more 3/8 inch stuff because we simply don't need that high flow. And that means we have less water in the lines, which means if you turn on the hot water and you're waiting for hot water, you're gonna waste less. Although if you watch my upcoming video on plumbing, you'll learn some tips and tricks for mitigating that. But anyway, what we'll do, you have these take the place of typical like metal clamps. These are just a wider section of that same type of cross-linked polyethylene PEX-A, and you slip it over the nicely cut end of your pipe, just like so. And it's got a little lip at the end, so you know when it's fully bottomed out on there, all right? And if you've never seen this before, hopefully this is enlightening. And if you've seen this before, well, now's the time to go grab a drink or something. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our tool, and we're gonna insert it in there, and we're gonna stretch it out really well. And then once it's stretched, keep in mind the window for us to get the pipe end in there is not very long, but there is a window. So it's kind of nice in tight zones, you know, you can get your tool in there, stretch it out, and all you have to do is slam them together instead of putting them together and then getting like a ratchet crimper or some other thing in there to do the job for you. So it can be nice in tight spaces. So we'll go ahead and we'll get this, and we're gonna stick it in there. And you can see with each one, I can slide it farther down. And I like to get it good and stretched. That's looking pretty good. So we bottomed out on the tool. I'm gonna take the tool out and put the fitting in. Tool's out, the fitting goes in, and there's tabs on the fitting so that it fully seats and bottoms out there. And we're just gonna let this pipe shrink back down. And as it shrinks down, it's gonna tighten on this fitting. And we're starting to get there right now. And what you'll have is a connection that is super durable. It's watertight. It wants to be tighter than it is. It's always going to be working in your favor. And if you can see there, you see how there's a taper on that pipe? See how it tapers down? That's where that full flow fitting right there is stretching the pipe out around it. So there's actually no decrease in diameter of the pipe as it goes through. This is an awesome way to connect things, and I'm glad to see Home Depot and big box stores like that are actually starting to carry more PEX-A fittings and tubing. And the cool thing about PEX-A is it's backwards compatible with PEX-B. So if you're in a situation where you got to use a clamp or something like that, you totally can. It's not going to care. It just means when you're using PEX-A, you also have the option of doing it this way. It's also called expansion PEX. There was a couple of brand names associated with it. Uponor was kind of like the big one, and still is the big one that all of the industry pros use. But it's a great fitting. It's super stuff. It's super stuff, and it's super tough. But that's the tool du jour. These guys, they're stupid expensive new. I think it's like over $300 new. You can find them on the marketplace for a couple $100. And to me, I do enough plumbing to where it's worth it. But you can always buy it for $200, use it, and then sell it for $200, which is what I would recommend doing, unless you're planning on building lots of buses or replumbing a house, which is what I've been doing. So thus concludes the tool du jour. Give it up for our PEX-A, looking great, expansion PEX. I hope that helps you on your plumbing journey. Plumbing is one of my favorite activities. I think a lot of people, like electrical, are intimidated by it, but it's so fun because you get to just send water wherever you want it. It's magic, you know, and they do say that plumbing is what makes civilized life possible. So if you want to be civilized, check out some plumbing stuff, huh? A lot of good resources out there on the old YouTube's internet. Dang, we're getting these super chats. Wayne, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And we got Brenton Rawhoof. You finished up a one-man 16-inch roof raise. Dude, that is awesome. More than anything, you gave me the confidence to just go for it. That's what I'm talking about. Like, just go for it. Was it Eleanor Roosevelt who said that? I don't know. No, I think it was it Ralph Waldo Emerson? I don't know. Said boldness has, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. I think I got that right. So way to just get after it. That is inspirational. Really appreciate that. I'm going to scroll up and make sure I didn't miss any other great super chats or anything. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody, these comments are really great. You guys are great. Everyone's talking about Cosmic Country. Daniel Donato is a good time. I really enjoyed him and his band. They just tore it up, honestly. Really, that's who me and Brad and Donna were moving and grooving to. 3 nights. They came out here for 3 nights of that. I only went to 2. I took a night off to go see another show, which was Caribou. I don't know if anyone's hip to Caribou, but Caribou is one of my also favorite bands of all time. Okay, so we're gonna get in here. Let's let's just start with the comments. Here's a personal one. I guess we'll take it from Zachary Taylor. What will you do to ensure you don't get to the point of burnout again? Do you put systems in place to help identify and fix that's happening? My man, yes. The big one is I'm not working as much, and I'm doing more for me. And that was a hard thing for me to do. You know, I think at least for the type of brand of burnout that I have, I get to a point where I'm doing everything for everybody else because I think that that's the best way to do something. And it kind of is, but at the same time, what version of myself are other people getting if I'm not taking care of myself? You know, like I can only be as good as I possibly can if I take the best care of myself. So, you know, I've been, I gave up drinking. I've been working out every day. I've been meditating every day. All the cliche things, you know. But hey, it turns out it works. And it's been refreshing to get a little bit of discipline again in my life and get back to that stuff. You know, it turns out if you do something every day, you get better at it. And that's immensely satisfying. And if it's something you do only for you, then that satisfaction is like this internal flame that just keeps you stoked and feeling good all day long. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm also saying no to a lot more stuff, which is really great. Let me tell you, yes and no mean the same things. They open the door to possibility. And when you say no to something that doesn't totally feel in alignment, boy, it really keeps the door open for something to walk in that is just going to totally jive with you. And it's felt really great to say no to a lot of stuff that I normally would have felt pressure to say yes to. Still trying to help as many people as I can, of course, and do all of that, but I'm talking smaller things, the day-to-day, having boundaries, right? So fun. This is great. So the other thing is too, like, listen to your intuition. I mean, I was ignoring the crap out of my intuition. And it's hard to listen to your intuition if you're just busy all the time. So taking that space to do something for yourself and like tune in, highly recommend it. We've got some great comments coming in. I'm going to take a minute and read some out loud here. For a short bus conversion, can I get away with 1 inch of foam insulation on the floor since heating the space will be easier? Roof raise isn't in the cards right now, so I'm trying to save height. Yeah, I mean, like, if that's what you got to do, by all means, go for it. The truth is, I've got 4 inches of insulation in my floor, like a psycho. And that's because I take my bus into very cold places. The place I live is, can get very cold, below zero. But no matter what you do, unless you have heated floors, which is a whole nother project in its own right, unless you have heated floors, the floor is always going to be kind of chilly. You can install those really thin electric heat, mats under your floor. Those are cool, but they use electricity. And electricity is generally in short supply in our rigs unless we're plugged in. So it's not a great thing to rely on for conventional everyday baseline heat like that. So my advice to you would be, get maybe a nice runner, a nice rug to throw down with like a foam cushion under it, and get some thick wool socks, maybe a pair of slippers. I'm a big fan of Crocs. I'm even wearing them right now. How embarrassing. But they have such a thick foam rubber sole in the bottom that you really don't feel the temperature of what you're standing on. So again, that's going to take away a little bit of your headroom, I suppose. But it does make it so that you can waltz around in your bus and not get cold feet. Nobody wants to have cold feet. So I think you'll just be totally fine with 1 inch of insulation. Get a good heater, a diesel heater, of course. And if it's mounted down low and you get one of those vents and you duct it at the floor, it'll kind of heat the floor in that general area. And that feels good too. So in a short bus, maybe look into something like that, Joel Fuller, he's all about the PEX-A there. Never leaks. He couldn't have done it without it. I agree. Yeah, it can pivot around a fitting. That's good. Thank you so much for everyone being here. So here we go. So we're talking about pachinko. Here we go. Oh man, I actually just had a dude. I didn't just have it. This was about 6 months ago. A guy who was one of the leading importers of pachinko machines. I'm serious. Wanted to make a bus to tour around the country and spread the word about pachinko. Like when I was a kid, there was an old pachinko machine in my grandma's basement. It didn't work. I had no idea what it was, but I marveled at it. I was like 7, and it's all electromechanical, so it's all switches and relays. At least this one was. And I was just baffled at what the hell this thing was. I looked endlessly for a cord to plug it into the wall and see what would happen. But I never could find one. That's probably for the best. I might not be here with you if I had been able to plug that machine in. So, PEX Pro DIY tip. Okay, what do we got? Cut the tool splines to make up shorter distance between fittings. Use with caution. Ah, yeah, I see what you're saying. Oh, JK, cool. Good to see you here. Oh, different JK. Well, that's okay. That's great. What kind of philosophy have I been reading or engaging with? Well, that's a really great question. A perennial favorite of mine, I guess it's philosophy, although I studied Western analytical philosophy and things like symbolic logic and that kind of stuff, which is really dry, I would say. One of my favorite books of all time is just the Tao Te Ching. I mean, I think Taoism, I like that it's like short, kind of poetic quips that contain deep truths and wisdom. I really get off on that. Other than that, I just reacquainted myself with the work by Harry G. Frankfurt. It's called On Bullshit, and it's a philosophical dissertation on bullshit, what bullshitting is, like a formal definition of it, and its implications. And I picked that back up. It was published while I was an undergrad in 2005, but I picked it back up because I don't know about you, but there seems to be a preponderance of bullshit everywhere about everything. And I wanted to reread that. So I'm right in the middle of it. It's a short little thing. You can get it on Amazon. But that's a good one. it's a real bullshit's a real problem. And in general, the synopsis is, to a bullshitter, it is, you don't care about saying things, you don't care if they're true or false. What you care about is saying whatever needs to be said to push your narrative or your agenda. And that sounds like just about every freaking politician, CEO, whatever out there. They'll say whatever they got to say to push their agenda without regard to it being true or false. And really, they don't care if it's true or false. They just care that you believe it enough to keep listening to what they have to say, right? Attention is the most precious commodity that we have. And as long as they have your attention, they can reel you in, partner. I've seen it, Let's see. Cool. I'm convincing people. Redneck Tech 70. You are a member of the PEX-A club. Hopefully, welcome. Your welcome package is in the mail. Let's see. Lucas. Hey, what's up, man? It's wintertime. Do you have advice for tightening and loosening the pipe clamps off of the diesel heater, exhaust, and fuel lines? The access from under the bus. There's not much room in that steel pipe. It depends on whoever installed that, which on your bus was either me or my former business partner, Ben Jackson. And a lot of times we will pre-install all of those things on the bottom of the heater and then feed it through because access can be so tight. So that might be the case. The other things, that you probably already have, but I'll mention it here for other folks, 90-degree extensions on impact guns, long lengthening extensions for those impact guns or wrenches to get you in tight spaces. As a person who does a lot of mechanical work, one of my favorite tricks, if you're trying to get at something that's in there really tight, is there a way that you could add like a really long extension? I mean, I'm talking like this long, or maybe both of these, and you stick them together to get you out, maybe put a swivel joint in there. Is there anything you can do to get the action of your hands away from the location of the fastener? That's an invaluable tool, trick, tip, I don't know. It's handy. Other than that, without looking at exactly the clamp that you got, it would be hard for me to say how I would tackle that. But we put it in there, so it must be possible. Pretty funny. Leon, you're wearing Crocs. Yeah, I'm a Croc guy. I've been wearing Crocs, man, since I was 19. Crocs and bus life. No coincidence, huh? Yeah. Jennifer, you got burned out too. You got to put that stuff aside. Yeah, I love it. I like that story, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing. You don't want your life to become mundane, Big Rolling Home, what do you got to say? You could insulate thicker under your cabinets to reduce heat loss and pipe chilling. Hey, now there's an idea. Yeah, why not? I mean, one thing that I have done in the past, if there's a room for it, is under your freshwater tank or under your water heater, put another inch of that foamular just to get that, to eliminate the thermal bridge that it has to your subfloor. So I could see how that could translate there. I'd be curious how that plays out in terms of like the real feel inside the bus. It wouldn't be nothing, but we're talking about Pachiko the band. I was talking about the Japanese, it's like Plinko pinball kind of hybrid thing. That's so funny. So funny. Everybody's relating to the bullshit. I know. It's a freaking phenomenon out here. And I have to say, as somebody who shamefully wears the title of influencer, influencers in number are giving politicians a run for their money in terms of gross output of bullshit, per annum. It's unbelievable, the crazy shit that influencers are saying. And a lot of times they say the wrong thing just to get you to click on the thing, but then people believe the thing. Oh man, buddy, we got a real problem there. And everyone forgets what they said so fast they don't get held accountable. I know. It's crazy, right? I just can't even with this stuff. Magnetic bit holder adapters. Yeah, that's a good tip. So, if you're trying to get to a screw or something, that means that you can't get both hands in there to like hold the fastener and get your tool in there. a magnetic bit holder is nice because a lot of times you can preload the fastener and then shoot it in there, or it'll just hold onto your bit for you if you're going in deep to pull something out. So that's a good one. I like that. Here we go. From Brenton. Thank you, Brenton, for the question here. When mounting a mini split above the windshield, you can't drain. Oh, we're talking indoor. Okay. You can't drain straight down. Is there a way? Is there a slope you want when routing it horizontally to clear the windshield? Well, yeah. You know, in my life, have I actually installed a I don't think I have personally installed a mini split, the indoor unit above the windshield on a bus. So this will be hypothetical for me, but I'll tell you like what I would do to start approaching that problem. Usually on the sides of the windshield, there are metal pieces of trim with a cavity behind it. That cavity might already be full of wires in your case, or you might not have one, but if you do have one and it's empty, that's a great place to route your condensate lines down. That'll get you past the windshield. It puts you into your dash, which can also be a bit of a cluster in its own right? But at least you're there past the windshield, which can be hard to get to. No matter what, the most important thing on these connections for the condensate drain, and if you don't know, folks, the indoor units of mini splits, they have a coil in there. And when that coil is cooler than the ambient air, so when it's in air conditioning mode, you get condensation on it. And that condensation, that moisture needs somewhere to go. So it drips into a tray and then it drains out. Most mini splits give you the option to have it drain from one side or the other side, depending on what's most convenient for you. Well, since our buses do a lot of rocking and rolling, it's nice to plumb those drains onto both sides. You want to drain it from both sides because if you're parked off level and it's trying to drain from the high side, it's going to overflow that tray and it's going to start leaking, and we all know that's a mess. So if you plumb into both sides, that's going to help. Other than that, you just want to make sure you have a slope. Now, if you're out of room, my friend, you're going to have to get creative. And at that point, that's like trim, you know? I would make some type of maybe wood or other material enclosure to go up the sides of those windshields to hide those pipes as they drop down. But no matter what you do, unless you want to have two little like leaky whiskers off the forehead of your bus that drip, which, hey man, nothing wrong with that. Whatever floats your boat, partner, it'll definitely work. But if you want something that looks a little better, you're going to have to make a little cover or something to disguise those lines down as they drain. I don't know if anything I said is of use to you, but maybe to someone else it is. So there you go. Here we go. Nomadic Fanatic. Hello. Thanks for all the motivation over the years. I'm neck deep in my build because of your videos and advice. I think that's a compliment. Being neck deep in a build can be overwhelming. And you know, that's another thing. Like, you know, the bus itself is one project. Yeah, of course. But we all know that that project is made up of like thousands of other smaller projects. And in a small space, in a space where we're trying to maximize efficiency and everything, all those projects get these little threads that connect them to all the other projects. And that can be like, at least for me, that's like my number one source of like analysis paralysis. I will be, you know, I mean, what was I doing the other day? I was freaking, I was working on my closet, right? Well, the closet is right next to my kitchen, and where the kitchen countertop ends, you know, I had just ended the countertop, even though my closet is actually stepped back. But what's tricky about that is my batteries are in the bottom of my closet, and they are actually bumped out. Okay, and to further complicate things, not only do I have the batteries and this closet, but I'm trying to really minimize how much my closet sticks out because it makes my bed feel claustrophobic. Because if my closet's too deep, I can't look around it. All these things come into play. And then I want it to look really good. And I want to maintain the existing aesthetic of my countertops and my cabinet drawer fronts. And then in front of that, there's a little step that's got to lift up. And then some drawers that have to go in first. And just real quick, I was like, and I was just spinning out. And Brad came in the bus one morning. And I was actually planning on having Brad help me with other projects. And we just started chewing on this closet, battery, countertop transition element. And, you know, thanks to having him in there, he was like, well, we could extend, what if we extend the countertop? And I was like, whoa, I hadn't even considered that. And we came up with this solution that I probably wouldn't have seen or thought of unless Brad was around. But it was an example of where, all I wanted to do was build my closet. And the next thing I know, I'm dealing with electrical, I'm dealing with my kitchen cabinets, I'm dealing with like the floor plan and where this little step up is going to happen. And it just exploded in my face. And so when you're looking at these buses, if in whatever way you can, it's so nice if you can just take one project at a time and really see those projects through to completion and not stop until you're done. So like I was installing my electrical solar system, and there was like all these other carpentry projects and plumbing projects that I could have been working on. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this, and I'm not going to stop until I'm done. And I can put all that stuff away, and I can reclaim that mental headspace back. And that's what I did. I didn't stop till the freaking solar system was up and running. And it felt so good to check something completely off my list and then start on the next project. I think it's project like 896 is what I'm on to now. And I think there's only like another 600 projects left. So I'm way past the halfway point there. Yeah, anyway, here we go. So speaking of influencers, did you see President Che's second build? No, I've been saving that. I have not watched it, and I'm dying to. But when I do watch it, it's going to be in here with the camera on because I'm going to make a video about that. And I can't believe he made another bus, I mean, and if you go back on and look at my reaction to his first bus, he actually commented on that, saying that I hurt his feelings because he watched my channel and really respected me. And was I think he was like basically bummed out that I didn't like his work. But the guy didn't take any of my advice, first of all. So if you're watching my videos, I don't even know why if you're not going to take any of my advice. But he built his gray tank mounts out of 2x4s, I think, and he put I think he put drywall in the bus and used spray foam to patch. I mean, it was a mess. It was a total mess. So I'm dying to watch that. No spoiler alerts, please, because I don't know anything about it. I've seen the thumbnail and I have not clicked. I really want to see what the deal is. I am a creator. Thank you. I mean, yeah, I think we all are, right? I think deep down, the big human impulses are to stay alive, right, and create. And I've been thinking about the meaning of life, right, and what we do in this life. And they're quippy, but I kind of landed on a few things. The only things that we seem to do in this life is move things around. Okay, and if you're a builder, we move things around and we make them stay there. But fundamentally, I'm just moving stuff around. You might just move money around. Maybe you move emails around. I don't know. We move things around and we tell stories. I think my own identity, your identity, is really the story that we tell ourselves about who we are. It's how we make sense of the world, It's how we make sense of politics and religion and science. All of these things are really just a story that explains whatever we're trying to get at, and watch out because it might be full of bullshit, as I mentioned earlier. But what's the meaning of life, Just to freaking hang out, dude. I think that that's the meaning of life. If you can be so fortunate to be comfortable, be fed, be healthy, and have good people in your life, hanging out and just enjoying this existence, I think is the whole freaking meaning of it all. And if I can help you get to that point, that gives me a little bit extra. But really, I only do that by hanging out with you, So, hey, there's a thought. So what do we got here? Make sure you don't drain both sides. That's right, Brad, crowning around. You want to drain both sides of those mini splits. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, nice. Brenton, my idea for helping you with the mini split drains is working out. Okay. You got hollow tubes in each corner that run down to the bottom of the bus and are hollow on the bottom. Perfect for draining. Oh my gosh. Did anyone ever watch Car Talk or listen to Car Talk on NPR growing up? I listened to it every week with my grandparents, and I've listened to literally every episode. I've listened to every single of their 20-year run. I've listened to every episode. And I love hearing the Magliosi brothers wax about other people's car and relationship problems over the phone, trying to solve them. It's so good. If you haven't listened to them, listen to them. It's not everyone's brand of humor. Lots of bad dad jokes, and they got the wickedest Boston accent. It's wicked. But I love their attitudes, and they laugh all the time. It'll put you in a good mood, even if you don't like cars. What do we got? Hey, Mobile Dwellings, my pal Justin, who By the way, Justin and I have a program called Schooly Support, and usually it's in the scroll on the bottom. I need to update that, but it's a monthly service. It's $250 a month, but it gives you the ability to schedule unlimited half-hour phone consultations with myself, and then you get almost 24/7 text support. It's not, Justin sleeps, but Justin's also available. If you got quick questions or a quick phone call, you can talk to Justin too. You'll get his number. And we've graduated a lot of people from the program. I've met a lot of great people. And we do have a few openings because I haven't been here to announce it. It's called Schooly Support. You go to schoolysupport.com. And I think there's a link to it from my chuckcassidy.com webpage. I don't know. And if you want help from me directly, you can always book an hour of my time. And although it's not as affordable, it's like $100 and something, which is expensive. I hear you, but I'll tell you a lot of stuff. And if you need help, since we're plugging everything, if you need help with your solar system, I am a Victron dealer. It's the bread and butter of what I do is designing and installing solar systems for people, especially in buses. If you schedule a half-hour solar consult with me, we'll talk about your needs. We'll design a system. I can sell it to you for the lowest price you're going to find anywhere on the internet. I can give you all the wire and cables and bits and bobs you need and get you out the door with a system that's going to work for you. And that's something I really love helping people with, because if you don't know what's out there, you don't know what's available to help you solve your problems. And so you might end up doing things in a more expensive or convoluted or unsafe way, simply because of your own ignorance as to what products are out there. So you might have a great knowledge of electricity, in your head, and that's awesome. But if you don't know all the different parts you can buy and use to solve your problems, well, all that knowledge is kind of, it's not being fully utilized, So we got to make use of that, because not everybody understands electricity. All right, Nicholas Lewis, what's up, my friend? You're about to start a roof raise on your 4-window shorty. Oh, what a shorty. What are your reasons for your approach to riveting order pattern when mounting new skins? Wow. Well, the main objective when you're skinning a bus is to minimize oil canning. And what that is, we've got the vertical ribs and then sheet metal between it, and that sheet metal will bow and bend, and starts to look like an old oil can. We don't want that, obviously. There's a few things you can do to mitigate that. The first one is you can use a thicker gauge steel. So I like 18 gauge steel. It's more than strong enough. It's a little bit less weight, which is nice because we're putting it up high, but it's not as resistant to oil canning as 16 gauge steel. 16 gauge steel is quite a bit heavier and more robust and thicker, so it's much more resistant to that oil canning effect. That's one easy thing you can do. It's a little bit more of a pain because when you're drilling all those rivet holes, it's going to take you longer, but you'll get a flatter laying skin. So that's nice. The other thing is when you do the roof raise, making sure your hat channels are when you sight down the side, you want them to all disappear at the same time. That's how you know that they're all in plane with each other. That's why if you watch my video, I use a jig to pull everything flat against a really rigid piece of steel. You really want that. That's going to help you tremendously. And even after you're done, a lot of times there's glue on those hat channels. Go through with an angle grinder, and if there's any bumps or glue or anything like that, grind them smooth so that there's nothing causing them to bump out. So that's another thing with the method. And then as far as how I do it, I've done it so many different ways, and every time I do it one way, I'm convinced that that way is better. But the ways that I've been doing it most recently, if you can, it's nice to start in the middle of a sheet and work out, so that if there's a bubble or a bow, you kind of have the ability to work with it and spread it to the edge. That being said, I've also done the top-down method, kind of like a typewriter, where you're pushing that bubble and that bow to the bottom. But doing that, sometimes you can get into situations where the sheets will start to flop out and flip out on themselves because of some internal tension built up. Well, you can avoid that internal tension by, when you drill the holes, making sure that you're drilling them dead straight, parallel, because if there's any angle, those rivets are going to pull the sheets. That's going to help. And the other thing you can do to help, with the skinning process, which is difficult to do this time of year, is install the skins as hot as possible. Steel expands. It expands quite a bit. It will expand 1 inch for 1,000th of an inch, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, for every inch of material for every 100 degrees in temperature change, roughly. So if you have a big sheet of steel, you got say a 63-inch sheet of steel, which is like 2 windows in a Bluebird. That will go from 20 degrees to 120 degrees, right? That's 100 degrees temperature change on 60 something inches. That's 60 thousandths of an inch. And at that point, we're getting to something that like you could see, you could perceive, and it's gonna wanna make that steel bubble and bow. So if you can put the steel skins on when they're hot, that is gonna give you the best odds of the ways that they're gonna grow and expand working in your favor, so that when primarily they will be in a slightly shrunken state, keeping everything in tension. And that's what we want, rather than if you install them when it's 20 degrees outside and your bus is going to be living somewhere where it's 70, well, that steel is going to be expanding and it's going to want to give you some oil canning action. And it's a phenomenon that is so problematic if you look at ships, especially older ships, old battleships even. They had really thick steel that they used on the hulls. And when you look at them closely, if the paint job is shiny enough, you can see all of the steel plates and all of these ripples in there, and it really looks awful. But that's because of oil canning, and it's a real phenomenon, and it definitely causes a lot of ripples in people's buses. So watch out for that. Other than that, just do the best you can. Seal it up tight, and use the right rivets, drill the holes straight, deburr the holes, get a deburring bit and deburr the hole every time after you drill it to make sure that the rivet sits flush and doesn't get caught on a chip. And don't stop till it's done, Do bus projects ever truly end? No, they don't. Just like building a house or living a life, right? How important do I think it is to skin my bus? Oh, well, when it's warm. Just answered that for you. Hopefully that helps. Watching from Maple Valley, Washington. Right on. How is it up there? Cold and rainy? Conjunction junction, what's your funk? That's what I'm saying. Anyone going to Schoolypalooza / the Ungathering this year besides Justin and crowning around? Chuck? I think he's asking me. I'm still on the fence. It's like in February this year. It's a whole different thing. The cool thing is this year, my bus will be done. Yeah, right? Very cool. I think my bus will be done in the next, right? In the next like 3 weeks or so. So that's a big maybe. If I go down there, I'm going to stop at AAA bus sales and get my transmission swapped to an MT643 because I got the AT545. And we just can't live like that, right? Click and Clack, that's right, the Tappet brothers. Katak, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hey, Marie, thank you. Nice to see you too. This is great. People are talking. By the way, I've got a Patreon. I don't even know if I linked that. I should really get on this, but hey, it's like my first day again. There is a Patreon. You can go there and support me for as little as like $1 a month or $3 a month. Gets you access to a Discord that I will say I have been very dormant from, but I'm getting re-engaged with. The cool thing about the Discord channel is that everybody in the channel, unlike Facebook groups, okay, God bless them, I guess, where most of the people are idiots. No offense if you're in a Facebook group, I'm in them. The Discord, everybody in the Discord is there because they're being diligent enough to try to do things the right way. And people in my Discord channel have solved problems in bus building far better than I have. So that alone, I think, is worth a lot. And it's just in a positive and encouraging place where Facebook is not always that way, if you can believe it. I know, it's so shocking. So here we go. If you use an RO filter for potable, it should be fine. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. A UV sterilizer in the tank. Yeah, so I will be pre-filtering through a crappy little Camco thing into the tank. That's basically to get the big chunks out. And then I'm considering doing a UV filter. I mean, I've never needed one, but it would be cool to have the peace of mind. They're really cheap. I would only be UV filtering probably my drinking water. Yeah, probably. I'm making this up on the fly though. Right now, I'm not planning on a UV filter, but they are cool. And it's a great idea, especially if you want the ability to, fill up from sketchy locations. Let's see. Yeah, you definitely don't want to drink your condensate because those coils are coming into contact with the air. So anything that's in the air is also condensing on the coil. So you'd be drinking like, you know, dust, basically. Slime in the ice machine. Oh, yeah. If you've never had a job where you clean the ice machine. Redneck Tech, what's up? Okay, EG4 6000 XP, okay. And 2 EG4 rack mount batteries, foundation of my solar system. Haven't heard of that inverter in schoolie. What do you think? I think it's awesome. My gripe with those inverters and all of the all-in-one inverters that have an inverter, a solar charge controller, and also an AC charger so that they can charge from the grid, is that they all have high idle consumption, which means just by virtue of having it on, the power that it uses, which they all use power, is really high. That's a problem because those machines are on 24/7. So compare that to like a Victron Multi-Plus. Let's keep it apples to apples, okay? So that EG 6000 XP, I think the standby, the idle consumption on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's in the like 70 or 80 watt range. And that's far higher than what you would have in a Victron inverter, which would be somewhere around half of that. And it's significant because in our off-grid lives in the bus, the fundamental equation that we can never violate is we can never use more energy than we produce, right? It keeps us in check. We can't go into debt with our energy. And our limitation, unless we're running generators and stuff, whatever, is how many panels we can fit on the roof. It's very fixed and it's very undersized for how we're used to living, frankly. So when you have a device that uses, say, an extra 40 watts compared to another alternative for that same device, and you're leaving it on 24 hours a day, 40 watts times 24 hours a day, that's what's 40 times 24? It's like 1,440 watt hours, I believe, of power are being used. Extra, so 1.4 kilowatt hours. How significant is that? Well, let's say that we have 2,000 watts of solar panels on the roof of our bus. On an average day, a kind of easy number to figure out how much you'll generate is to take that number and multiply it by 5. This is super back of the napkin stuff, but puts us in the ballpark, right? So let's say you got 2,000 watt array on your roof, times 5, you're making 10 kilowatt hours of power a day. Well, now that 1.4 kilowatt hours, we look at it and we're like, whoa, dude, that is 14% of your total power generation, of your total power availability is being used just by your inverter. And that might not be a problem. If you can add some extra panels to make up for it, not a problem at all. But a lot of times we can't. And then it does become a problem, especially in environments where it is not as sunny, it's cloudy or colder. So while those inverters are good, they definitely have a place. And I think especially if you have a bus you can put a lot of panels on, that's a great application for it. But that's my only gripe with it. Other than that, it's got a lot of amazing features. I mean, I believe that model can output and also input 120 or 240 AC, which nothing else, no single unit can do. It's got your charge controller built in. I think it can accept a huge, I think like 4,000 watts of panels or something it can handle, which is also very impressive. And it's very cheap. I think it's like $1,300, whereas to buy all those pieces piece by piece, you would be spending probably $2,500. And you don't have to wire them together. They're all in a neat little package. So it definitely has its pros. By all means, dude, I think you have a good shot at it working out for you. And let us know how it goes, because I myself have not lived with one in a bus, so I don't know how much that extra draw matters. I just know that it's significant, and a lot of times, you know, that 15% fudge factor is definitely within the realm of what means you need a generator or don't need a generator on a regular basis. So I don't know. I'm not here to stomp on your dreams by any means. Give it a go, right? Let's see. Deborah Jones, thank you for the super chat. That is super kind of you. I'm going to be eating well. That's your third super on a live stream. Wow. As content creators, appreciate that. I put in a curved cedar ceiling and got the windows framed. You have 19 days off and plan on getting a lot done. There is nothing better than an uninterrupted block of time where you can just get in deep and work on something. And that's like where I've been. And I've realized, like, I used to view my bus project as a burden and something that I had to finish. And in this recent bout of working, I've realized that it's actually a deep joy and an incredible privilege that right now, for at least this brief span of a few weeks, my job is to finish my bus. And that's something I feel like I've trained almost my whole life for, right? And I get to finish my bus in my own shop, albeit a small one, but it's mine, where all my stuff is. And wow, just having that time where there's nothing else on the plate, it's incredible. I mean, wow. We should all, I hope, get that experience at least once in our lives. And I'm very grateful for it. And it's bringing me deep, deep joy to work on this project. Schoolie Palooza, never-ending project. Yeah. Hinaka, good to see you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got everyone's in here. This is so great. How has my life improved from not drinking? Well, it's been almost not quite a month, but no, it's not. It hasn't been a month. I drank on Thanksgiving. It's been like 3 weeks. I'll tell you what. I just have a lot more energy, and like, to be honest with you, I was using it because at the end of the night, I'm just a go person. If I don't have something to do, I like get bored, or then I have to like face my own internal landscape, and sometimes it's super stressful or gives me anxiety or something. And so drinking is a nice way to take that edge off. But I found that was a coping mechanism really that I was using because I just wasn't very happy with my life and the things that I was doing, And now that I'm in this place, for the last couple of months, really where I like all the stuff I'm doing, I just don't have the need for it, And it's not like forever necessarily, but it sure feels good. And like, I'm not like hanging out with people right now. I'm just kind of I'm like a monk, it kind of feels like a monk here. This is hilarious. Have you heard of putting a UV light in a mini split to cut down on mold? Sure haven't. That's a far out idea. I don't know enough about that, but to be honest, here we go. JK Games, what's up? Okay, you got solar panels, a hybrid mini split. I don't know what that one's. Oh, it will run off 12-volt director mixed with 120. Interesting. I want to know more about that. Work sucks. It eats up too much time. I know, man. Like, we give our best hours, to our jobs. And if that job isn't in alignment, it feels like, oh, it hurts. It really hurts. And I've got so much empathy for anybody in that. I've been there. Even building buses, I've been there. Running a business, I was like, this is not what I want to do with my time. 1 kilowatt times 5 equals 5 kilowatt hours, not 10, you goober. I don't really know what that means. Unless I did my mental math wrong live on camera, which is totally possible. But what I was saying is that if you got a 2,000 watt solar array on your roof and it runs for 5 hours, that's 10 kilowatt hours. So there we go. Here we go. Brenton, you saved the money for the battery because the all-in-one saved you a ton over all the Victron components, especially since you need 220. Totally. If you need 220 and you're using Victron, that means you either have to buy an auto transformer to take the power off of a single inverter and step it up to 220, which is $400-ish, maybe $500, or go with the second inverter, which is, a second Victron 3,000 watt inverter. Right now, the multi plus 2, I think, is like $1,000. So that's the real deal. Too bad there are not DC powered mini splits. Maybe bypass the inverter and use a DC to DC buck converter. Well, yeah, there are DC powered mini splits, but these are the two things one that I have a problem with, the other that I have a question about. Mini splits that run on AC power are primarily designed for the residential market, which means that they are rated, by a standard, and this is the SEER standard, SEER, and it is a seasonally adjusted energy efficiency rating or something like that. I don't know. But what it does is it correlates directly to that unit's efficiency. And so you can really easily A and B different units to see what's most efficient. All of the DC powered mini splits that I see don't have such ratings. And so then you're wondering, am I buying a mini split that can run off the battery directly and therefore is not getting the efficiency losses of the inverter, which is around 5% on a high quality inverter, 5 to 8 maybe. But you could inadvertently be buying a mini split that's inherently maybe 20% less efficient. And so without an equalizing way to rate those, it's very difficult to say if that's a good deal. The other thing is, if you're using a buck boost converter coming off of your native battery bank, say it's 12 and you got to step it up to 48 or whatever, those things are less efficient than inverters generally. Switch mode power supplies, I think the best ones are like low 90s, but most of like the generic buck boost type power supplies, I think generally, and it's going to vary based on what percentage of their total output they're performing at, I think they peak at 90 and most of them are in the 80% efficient range. So just a thought there. But yeah, I agree. If there was a way to get an energy efficient DC powered mini split that operated at your battery bank's native voltage, so you didn't have to step it up or down, that would be the holy grail, like it would be really amazing, because having a big inverter sucks. And because of those losses I was talking about earlier, the bigger the inverter, the higher the idle consumption. So when you're sizing inverters, yeah, it's nice to have headroom if you want to run a welder or whatever, but it's also really nice to have a very small inverter, just as big as you need, because that means your system is overall more efficient. So in my own bus, I've got a 5,000 watt inverter, and I'm trying to work out a way that I really only need when I'm cooking or running the mini split, depending on how much it's using. It pulls like 50 watts or something just sitting there. Well, I can get a 1200 watt Victron inverter, very high quality inverter, that only uses 9 watts when it's just sitting there. So I'm trying to figure out a nice way to switch that on and off automatically. I gave up on that for this version of my bus, and I'm going to see how vital that becomes. But it's something to consider, that your inverter size, there are penalties to be paid other than financial ones for going with a larger inverter. Oh, nice. Justin, Mobile Dwellings. You're buying a 6000 XP and you want to make a video about it. Hell yeah. It is a big unit. See, I haven't seen one in person, but that's good to know. So good to see everybody here. By the way, I'm going over because it's been so nice to be here, but I'm going to wrap it up here pretty quick. I'm going to scroll really fast. We'll get through these questions and then, we'll call it a night. I'm sure people have families and bedtimes. There are solar powered mini splits that run off direct DC. Yeah. The bummer with that is then those solar panels that are connected to it can only be used to run your mini split. So if you're like, I need to charge my batteries, but half of my panels are permanently connected to the mini split, you'd be like, man, it'd be nice if I could get those panels to charge my batteries instead of running the mini split. That's the reason why I do not recommend those for bus applications. Now, if there's some feature that allows you to bypass that or something that I'm mistaken on, please let me know. But yeah, as far as, for our applications, those direct solar DC powered mini splits are a pretty hard pass for me at the moment. So let's see. Free drinks at the club. This is great. Putting 2 to 3K on the roof and 10 to 15K of battery in the bus. That's a good system. Most of the systems that I suggest, if you got the room, it's like if you can get to 2400 watts of solar on the roof, and if you can have, between 2 and 4 of the server rack batteries, depending, on what your loads are, that's where you want to be. Everything else is kind of details, right? As it always is. But those are kind of the big ticket items. And it's where you get to that point of diminishing return. You could buy 6 batteries or 8 batteries. The only penalty you'll pay, is weight and money and space. And the truth is, making a solar system that's 100% reliable in all conditions is very challenging. I would say almost impossible, working within the parameters of a bus, right? So you got to draw the line somewhere and say, hey, this will work 99.9% of the time. I'm not going to spend another $1,000 on a fourth or a fifth battery. And that's going to depend on you, right? We can talk about it, but that's going to depend on you. So, yeah, you can, RedNet Tech, you're right. They have AC and DC inputs, but there is not a charge controller or anything that I'm aware of that allows you to take the panels that are connected to the mini split and send that power anywhere else. So, strip the AC system out of a 2015 Prius, it'll solve all your problems. Yeah, that would, if it's got the high enough output, I'm just not experienced enough in HVAC. That's a whole, it's like I got to know about plumbing and electrical and carpentry and welding and metal fab and mechanical work. And it's like, maybe one day, right? For now, I'm working on reacquainting myself with guitar and learning how to sail. That's what's in my head right now. Not in Washington anymore. No plans to be back up there in the future that I can think of. Have I started installing the Acrano instead of the Servo? No, I haven't. I like the Servo. I like the ability to, well, and I might be overstepping here, but I believe the Acrano, that device, you have to connect all of the devices to it. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I believe that that's one where all of your VE Direct and other networking cables connect to the device, which is the screen. And that is cool. It means there's one less box, but I don't like having to route all those cables to where the touchscreen interface goes. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I think that's what the Acrano is. So take a look at that, whatever. Let's see, here we go. Signature Solar has a version, a 28 SEER. I tell you what, I bought that, the 28 SEER EG4, because that SEER rating is way up there. You know how they do it. They make the indoor unit big, much bigger. If you have a bigger surface area, you're going to have a more efficient transfer of temperature through it. It's why big trucks have big radiators and little cars have little radiators, right? So if you can fit that into your floor plan or design around it, do it, right? In my own build, I actually ended up not installing that. I got rid of it because I couldn't incorporate it into my build in a way that wasn't going to totally eat up all of the space that I needed for other things, which is right above my bed. So that's the only word of caution there. Other than that, it looked to be a good unit, and the efficiency is really impressive on that. I mean, we're talking, the one in my bus I think is 22 or 23 SEER. We're talking about something that is like 28% more efficient. That is notable, right? That is very notable. It really helps us with that equation of not using more power than we generate with our panels. The VLIT DC air conditioner, the roof mount one, I've heard great things about it. I've got friends who have used it. It's quieter than a rooftop. It's not as quiet as a mini split, but it is really efficient, and it's a good option if you're trying to do, air conditioning only, because I don't believe it's a true heat pump, and you don't have the ability to mount a mini split somewhere, or you just don't want to deal with the hassle of mounting a mini split, which is totally valid. It's cool to see that. When will I be back after tonight? Well, if you're asking about a second date, I don't know. People did buy me some drinks and food, so I guess I'll be back for a second date. I'm going to try to do these every Thursday. Videos, I think, are going to be a bi-weekly type thing. I got to get you all caught up on what I've been doing, show you some of the things I was talking about earlier. But now that I'm kind of set up and at my shop space again, making videos and stuff is a lot easier. So, I mean, working in general is easier. Have you ever done an active system for adjusting panels to point them to the sun? No. And I never will, not on a bus. The reason is building something that moves, that does a thing, adds like 4 times to the complexity of said thing, right? When you mount that on the roof of a bus where it's exposed to the elements, it has to be corrosion proof essentially, because it's going to be getting wet and subject to all the crap on the roads. It's got to be robust enough to handle hurricane force winds regularly, as well as essentially earthquakes all the time, and then function flawlessly and not get stuck in any position while securely attaching the panels and not adding too much weight to the roof of your bus is a design and engineering challenge that I don't have interest in taking on. Solar panels are steadily getting better and better. You know, from in the last 8 years, the standard panel was around 300 to 350 watts. Now we're 450 watts with bifacial technology, which lets you get power from the backside, which is very useful on a bus. If you're parked over snow, you got snow on your panels, but snow on the ground reflecting the sunlight to the bottom of your panels, you're going to make power at times when you normally wouldn't. And you're going to make more power the times you normally would. I would rather do that and have a permanently mounted solution than something that is just going to be complicated as hell, expensive to make, difficult to engineer, and frankly, that's just more complex. Like, life on the road is hard enough. It's like this and sailing, as I learn more about sailing, have so much in common. The people that do offshore ocean crossings, complexity is their enemy. You want things that are inherently efficient, simple, safe, and effective. And if that means that the only way to do it is to do it manually or to not do it at all, that's the preferred outcome. And I really think that that is a valuable thing to keep in mind when you're designing your buses. My bus is complicated, yeah, for sure. But the ways in which it's complicated, I think, are simple. And that's something that I like doing and incorporating into my builds. And one of them is my solar panels ain't going anywhere except for wherever my bus takes them. They're not going to be tilting because that extra 25 to 30% gain, which is totally real, is just not worth it for me. It just ain't worth it. Crown Round is heading for the sun. Nice. That sounds great. Go get some. Yeah, here we go. Unlocking a sixth gear makes sense. Yeah, send it. I've got a video on it. Send it to Charlie Ball because I think he can do it for you. It's totally worth it on all buses. $1,200 is too much. Yeah, Charlie Ball, watch my video about unlocking sixth gear. I think it's $450 or something that he charges. More complexity is more things to fail. Yeah. All right. Jack, you missed me. I miss you too. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me on this live. It meant the world to me. The studio audience, you were great too. And stay tuned because there is going to be a torrent of content, well, trickling out of here. But it's all going to be stuff that I think you'll like. Slightly different approach to things these days. And I'm excited to share it with you all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the support and the super chats. That really means a lot to me. And don't go anywhere. We're going to see you here next time.